The staccato beep of the hospital machines had become the soundtrack to my sister's suffering, a cruel reminder of how quickly life could unravel. Each visit left me more drained than the last, watching as Aria's once vibrant spirit dimmed beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. My name is Eleanor Prescott, and I never imagined I'd be recording my own sister's lies. I don't know what else to do, Ellie, Aria whispered, her voice thin and raspy. The insurance won't cover the experimental treatment. It's $30,000. I stared at her pale face, her cheekbones too prominent, her eyes sunken but still filled with that desperate hope I couldn't bear to extinguish. That's everything in my savings account, I said quietly, studying her expression. Every dollar I've put aside for the past 3 years. Aria reached out, her fingers cold against my wrist. I know it's asking too much. But Dr. Harlow says this could be my only chance. 3 months, Ellie. Just 3 months to try to beat this thing. Her words hung in the air between us. Cancer. Stage 3. The cruelest thief. I'll transfer the money tomorrow, I heard myself say. Relief flooded her features, momentarily masking the exhaustion etched into every line. I'll pay you back, I swear. Every penny. I squeezed her hand, wishing I could believe her. But something in her eyes, a flicker of something I couldn't name, made me hesitate. That night, I drove home with a heaviness pressing against my chest. $30,000. My down payment for a house. My safety net. My future, surrendered for Aria's chance at one. I typed out the transfer details with steady fingers, trying to ignore the whispering doubt in my mind. It wasn't like Aria to avoid my gaze. To fidget with her 4-line when discussing the treatment plan. When I hit confirm, I felt a strange foreboding, like watching a storm gather on the horizon. Maybe that's why, when she called 2 days later, I instinctively reached for my phone's record button before answering. Hey, how are you feeling? I asked, my finger hovering over the screen. Actually, much better, Aria said, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. Dr. Harlow thinks we might have turned a corner. That's incredible, I said, relief momentarily overwhelming my suspicion. The treatment's working already? A beat of silence. Too long. Well, there have been some changes to the treatment plan. I pressed record. 3 weeks later, I sat parked outside Aria's apartment, watching through the windshield as she emerged from a gleaming black Tesla, a car that certainly hadn't been hers before my $30,000 changed hands. She looked radiant. Healthy. Hair styled in loose waves, wearing designer sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. No signs of fatigue or illness as she laughed at something her companion, a man I'd never seen before, whispered in her ear. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I felt the truth settle over me, cold and irrefutable. There was no experimental treatment. No last-ditch effort to save her life. It had all been a lie. I touched my phone in my pocket, feeling its weight like a talisman. The recording. The proof. As I started my engine, a single thought crystallized in my mind. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice. The cafe buzzed with mid-morning chatter, the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans and pastries creating a deceptively peaceful atmosphere. I watched Aria through the window as she made her way inside, her designer boots clicking against the hardwood floor, a cashmere scarf draped artfully around her neck, another new purchase, no doubt. She spotted me and waved, a brilliant smile lighting up her face. The face of a woman who'd never been sick a day in her life. Ellie. She slid into the chair across from me, setting down her iced latte. You look tired. Everything okay at work? I studied her, my younger sister by 3 years, always the family favorite, always the one who got away with everything. Her sleek brown hair showed no signs of the hair loss she described in such heartbreaking detail. Her skin glowed with health, not the pallor of someone undergoing aggressive cancer treatment. Work is fine, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. How are you feeling? Any side effects from the treatment? She hesitated, just a fraction of a second, so quick I might have missed it if I wasn't looking for it. Some days are better than others, she said, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. The nausea comes and goes. But Dr. Harlow says my body is responding well. I nodded, taking a sip of my black coffee. And the clinic? In Chicago, right? When's your next appointment? Another hesitation, longer this time. Next week. I'm driving up on Tuesday. I let the silence stretch between us, watching as she began to fidget with her napkin. In your new Tesla? I asked finally, my tone still light, casual. Aria's eyes widened, then narrowed. What? Your new car. The black Tesla Model S. I saw you in it yesterday. Her cheeks flushed, but she recovered quickly. Oh, that. It's not mine. It's Marcus's, my friend. He's been driving me to appointments. Interesting, I said, reaching for my phone. Because the DMV registration that came through last week has your name on it. Aria's facade cracked, just slightly. Have you been spying on me? Let's call it investigating, I replied, placing my phone on the table between us, screen up. After all, $30,000 is a lot of money to invest without due diligence. Ellie, I can explain. I pressed play. The experimental treatment. It's $30,000. Aria's voice, thin and desperate, filled the space between us. That's everything in my savings account. Every dollar I've put aside for the past 3 years. I know it's asking too much. But Dr. Harlow says this could be my only chance. 3 months, Ellie. Just 3 months to try to beat this thing. I watched Aria's face drain of color as her own lies echoed back at her. When the recording finished, I simply waited, one eyebrow raised. You recorded me, she whispered, indignation flaring in her eyes. That's what you're upset about? Not the fact that you lied about having cancer to steal my life savings? Her gaze darted around the cafe, checking if anyone had heard. Keep your voice down, she hissed. Why? Afraid someone might learn what you did. What kind of person fakes a terminal illness to scam their own sister? Aria leaned forward, her expression hardening. You don't understand. I needed that money. For a luxury car? While I put my entire life on hold? It wasn't just for the car, she said, her voice dropping. I'm in trouble, Ellie. Serious trouble. People are after me. I barked out a laugh, harsh and disbelieving. Of course they are. Let me guess, loan sharks? Drug dealers? Or is it the IRS this time? The flash of guilt in her eyes told me I'd hit close to mark. You have no idea what my life is like, she said, a familiar defensiveness creeping into her tone. You've always had it so easy. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect. Don't, I cut her off. Don't you dare try to justify this by painting me as the privileged one. I worked for everything I have, Aria. Every single thing. While you've coasted through life on charm and others' goodwill. She recoiled as if I'd slapped her. That's not fair. Neither is lying about cancer to steal $30,000. I gathered my purse, sliding the phone back into my pocket. I want my money back. All of it. You have 1 week. Aria's expression shifted, challenge replacing shock. And if I don't have it? I stood, looking down at the sister I barely recognized. Then I take this recording to the police. And Mom and Dad. And your employer. And everyone else you've ever known. You wouldn't, she whispered, but uncertainty flickered across her face. Test me and find out. As I walked away, the weight of betrayal pressed against my chest like a physical thing. The sister I'd grown up with, who'd shared my room, borrowed my clothes, whispered secrets with me under blanket forts, had become a stranger capable of the cruelest deception imaginable. I'd given her 1 week. But as I pushed through the cafe door into the crisp autumn air, I wondered if any amount of money could repair what had been broken between us. 5 days after our confrontation, I returned home from work to find an envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a hastily scrawled note. It's all I can manage right now. Sold the car at a loss. I'm sorry, Ellie. I'll get you the rest. I promise. I stared at the check, something bitter and acrid rising in my throat. 5,000. A sixth of what she'd taken. Nowhere near enough. My phone buzzed with a message from Aria. Did you get my note? I didn't respond, turning instead to my laptop, where multiple browser tabs displayed the evidence of my week-long investigation. Bank statements showing the Tesla purchase 2 days after my transfer. Social media posts of Aria at restaurants and clubs, no sign of hospital visits or medical treatments. A conversation with her workplace confirming she hadn't taken any sick leave or mentioned health issues. And most damning of all, the complete absence of a Dr. Harlow at any oncology center in the state. I'd given her a chance to make this right. She'd failed. With steady fingers, I dialed a number I'd saved days ago. Detective Reeves? This is Eleanor Prescott. I'd like to report a fraud. The police station smelled of industrial cleaner and stale coffee. I sat rigid in an uncomfortable plastic chair, my folder of evidence clutched in white-knuckled hands as Detective Reeves reviewed its contents. And you're certain your sister was never diagnosed with cancer? She asked, her dark eyes sharp and assessing. Completely certain, I replied, sliding across another document. I called every oncology department in a 100-mile radius. There's no Dr. Harlow, and Aria has no medical records related to cancer treatment. Detective Reeves nodded, making a note. The recording is compelling evidence, but fraud cases between family members can be complicated. Because people assume families should just forgive and forget? I asked, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Sometimes, she acknowledged. But $30,000 moves this well beyond a family dispute. She leaned back, studying me. You understand what happens next? Once we open this investigation, there's no turning back. Your sister will likely face criminal charges. I thought of the $5,000 check sitting on my kitchen counter. The partial admission of guilt it represented. The feeble attempt to buy more time for more lies. I understand, I said quietly. And you're prepared for how this might affect your family? Parents, other relatives? The question hit a tender spot. Our parents had always protected Aria, excused her behavior, bailed her out of one mess after another. They would be devastated. Humiliated. Forced to confront the truth about their beloved younger daughter. They deserve to know who she really is, I said finally, though the words tasted like ash. Detective Reeves gathered the papers, sliding them into an official folder. We'll open an investigation based on your complaint and evidence. An officer will contact your sister for questioning. She handed me her card. If she attempts to contact you or pressure you to drop the charges, call me immediately. As I stood to leave, a leaden weight settled in my stomach. This was really happening. My own sister would face arrest, possibly jail time. Ms. Prescott, Detective Reeves called as I reached the door. For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. People who exploit the seriously ill, even hypothetically, they need to be held accountable. I nodded, unable to articulate the tangle of emotions choking me. Outside, rain had begun to fall, the gray skies mirroring the desolation spreading through me. I had just reached my car when my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen, sending a jolt of dread through me. I answered with trembling fingers. Eleanor Marie Prescott, her voice was tight with barely controlled fury. What have you done? My heart sank. Mom, The police just left our house. They're looking for your sister. Something about fraud charges? Filed by you? I closed my eyes, leaning against my car as rain soaked through my coat. It's more complicated than. She's your sister. Your blood. How could you do this to her? To us? She lied about having cancer to steal my savings, I said, the words burning my throat. $30,000, Mom. My entire savings. A beat of silence. What are you talking about? Aria doesn't have cancer. Exactly, I replied, frustration mounting. That's the point. She lied. No, Ellie, Mom interrupted, her voice suddenly uncertain. Aria was diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma 6 weeks ago. We've been helping her with the medical bills. The world tilted beneath my feet. What? The experimental treatment was her last hope. You knew that. You offered to help. My mind raced, trying to make sense of this new information that contradicted everything I'd discovered. But, the Tesla? She bought a brand new car with my money. Another pause, longer this time. That's Marcus's car. Her oncologist's son. He's been driving her to treatments in Chicago. Exactly what Aria had claimed. But that couldn't be right. I'd seen the registration with my own eyes. Hadn't I? Mom, I did my research. There's no Dr. Harlow at any oncology center. Dr. Harlow is her clinical trial coordinator at Northwestern, Mom cut in, her voice hardening again. Eleanor, what have you done? The ground seemed to shift beneath me as doubt crept in. Had I misunderstood something? Jumped to conclusions? I need to talk to Aria, I said, my voice hollow. Good luck with that, Mom replied bitterly. The police took her in for questioning an hour ago. My daughter in a police station, being treated like a criminal. I never thought I'd live to see the day. The call ended with a decisive click, leaving me standing in the rain, paralyzed by conflicting versions of reality. Had I made a catastrophic mistake? I drove to my parents' house in a fog of confusion and mounting dread. The familiar two-story colonial looked exactly as it always had, a bastion of childhood memories and family dinners. Yet now it felt like enemy territory. Dad answered the door, his normally jovial face drawn and grave. Eleanor, he said, the formal use of my full name underscoring the severity of the situation. Your mother is very upset. I need to understand what's happening, I said, stepping inside. Mom said Aria really does have cancer? Dad led me to the living room, where stacks of papers covered the usually immaculate coffee table. See for yourself. I approached cautiously, as though the documents might bite. Medical records. Insurance claims. Clinical trial acceptance letters. And there it was, Northwestern Memorial Hospital letterhead, Dr. Raymond Harlow's signature clear at the bottom. But the car. I protested weakly. Dad handed me another document. A lease agreement for the Tesla, registered to Marcus Harlow, with Aria listed as an authorized driver. The evidence I'd been so certain of began to crumble like sand through my fingers. She's been staying with us between treatments, Dad continued, his voice flat. The side effects have been brutal. She didn't want you to see her at her worst. My legs gave out, and I sank onto the couch. But she looked fine when I saw her. Healthy. Happy. Good days and bad days, Dad replied, his expression hard. You caught her on a good day. She's been fighting so hard to maintain some normalcy. The recording burned a hole in my pocket. The accusations I'd leveled at the police station replayed in my mind, each one another nail in the coffin of our relationship. Why didn't she tell me she was staying with you? Why all the secrecy? Dad sighed, suddenly looking every one of his 63 years. You know how she is. Proud. And. He hesitated. She didn't want to put more pressure on you after you'd already given so much. Shame washed over me in sickening waves. I'd been so convinced of her deception, so certain I was right. I need to fix this, I whispered. Where is she now? The police released her an hour ago. She's upstairs, resting. Dad's voice lowered. She was vomiting in the interview room. The stress of the accusation, on top of her condition. Each word was another dagger. I moved toward the stairs, but Dad's hand on my arm stopped me. She doesn't want to see you, Eleanor. The finality in his voice froze me in place. Dad, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I need to apologize. Not now, he said firmly. Maybe not for a long time. You need to respect that. I stood there, suspended between the urge to rush upstairs and the weight of my father's judgment. The sound of retching drifted down the hallway, followed by my mother's soothing murmurs. What had I done? I left my parents' house in a daze, the ground shifting beneath my feet with each step. In the space of a few hours, my righteous crusade had transformed into an unforgivable betrayal. I'd accused my critically ill sister of the worst kind of fraud. I'd subjected her to police questioning while she battled for her life. But something still didn't add up. Parked down the street from my apartment, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number from memory. Northwestern Memorial Oncology, how may I direct your call? Dr. Raymond Harlow, please, I said, my heart pounding. One moment. A few clicks, then, Dr. Harlow's office. Hi, I'm calling about my sister, Aria Prescott. She's a patient in Dr. Harlow's clinical trial? A pause. I'm sorry, we don't have a patient by that name. I gripped the phone tighter. Could you check again? Aria Prescott. She would have started treatment about 6 weeks ago. Ma'am, I've checked our records. There's no Aria Prescott in any of our treatment programs or clinical trials. The world tilted again, clarity beginning to emerge from the fog of confusion. Is Dr. Harlow's son named Marcus, by any chance? Another pause, longer this time. Dr. Harlow doesn't have a son. He has 2 daughters. I thanked the receptionist and ended the call, my hand trembling. One more call, to the vehicle registration department. The Tesla Model S registered last month to Aria Prescott? Yes, I need to confirm that information. The pieces were coming together, forming a picture more twisted than I had initially imagined. By the time I returned to my apartment, my confusion had transformed into cold, calculated certainty. I wasn't the one who had made a mistake. I stepped inside my darkened apartment, flicking on the lights to find Arya sitting on my couch. "Breaking and entering now?" I asked, setting down my keys. "Adding to your list of crimes?" She looked terrible, pale and drawn, with dark circles under her eyes. A hospital bracelet encircled her thin wrist. "I didn't break in. I still have the spare key you gave me last year." I remained standing, arms crossed. "What are you doing here, Arya?" She met my gaze, tears brimming. "I came to beg you to drop the charges. To understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly now," I replied. "The forged medical documents. Mom and Dad completely fooled. Northwestern Memorial has no record of you as a patient. Dr. Harlow has no son named Marcus." She flinched but didn't deny it. "The Tesla is registered in your name, not his. There is no him. You made him up, along with everything else." Arya's shoulders slumped. "It wasn't supposed to go this far." "No? What was the plan, then? Take my money and disappear?" She shook her head, a tear sliding down her cheek. "I was going to pay you back. I swear. I just needed time." "For what? What was so important that you'd lie about having cancer?" Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. "I owe people," she finally whispered. "Dangerous people. Gambling debts? Drugs?" I pressed. "Investments gone wrong. I put everything into a startup that turned out to be a scam. Then I borrowed to try to recover it, and..." She trailed off, staring at her hands. "They threatened me, Ellie. Said they'd hurt Mom and Dad if I didn't pay." I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "And that justified lying about cancer? Making our parents believe their daughter might die? Taking every penny I've saved?" I was desperate. She stood up, swaying slightly. "I didn't know what else to do." "You could have told the truth," I said, my voice deadly quiet. "You could have come to me, to Mom and Dad, and asked for help. Instead, you created this elaborate lie. Forged medical documents. Manipulated everyone who loves you." She sank back onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. "I know. I know it was wrong. But they're going to kill me, Ellie. The charges, the police, it's all over the local news. They know I've been caught." "That sounds like a problem of your making. Please," she looked up, real fear in her eyes. "Please drop the charges. I'll find a way to pay you back, I swear. I just need more time." I studied her, this sister I'd grown up idolizing, who'd always been the favorite, always gotten away with everything. Always using her charm and tears to escape consequences. The hospital bracelet, I nodded toward her wrist. "Nice touch." She glanced down, then back at me, defiance mingling with desperation. "I had to convince Mom and Dad somehow." "Where did you get the medical records?" "The ones at their house. Marcus works at a print shop," she admitted quietly. "He helped me create them. So there is a Marcus after all." She nodded. "Not a doctor's son. Just a guy I've been seeing." The final pieces clicked into place. "The same guy I saw you with that day. The one in the Tesla." "Yes." I walked to the window, staring out at the city lights as I processed everything. "How did you fake the sickness? The vomiting at the police station?" Ipecac syrup, she murmured, shame coloring her voice. I've been taking small doses to look ill when I need to. Jesus Christ, Arya. I turned to face her, disgust and pity warring within me. You could have seriously hurt yourself. I know. Her voice cracked. I don't know who I am anymore, Ellie. I've become someone I never thought I could be. Against my better judgment, I sat beside her on the couch, maintaining a careful distance. Who are these people you owe money to? Loan sharks. Connected to some bigger operation. She swallowed hard. Marcus introduced me. Said it was an easy way to get cash when I was desperate. And now? Now they're saying the original 50,000 has become 80 with interest. Her voice trembled. I've been making minimum payments, but it's never enough. Your money was supposed to clear the debt. But you spent it on a car instead. She looked away. The car was collateral for another loan. To buy more time. I rubbed my temples, a headache building behind my eyes. This is insane, Arya. You need to go to the police with this information. They'll kill me. Her voice rose, panic evident. Or worse, they'll go after Mom and Dad. Please, Ellie. I'm begging you. Drop the charges. Give me a chance to fix this. I stood, needing distance. You've been lying to me from the start. About everything. Why should I believe anything you're saying now? She reached into her purse, pulling out her phone. With shaking fingers, she played a voicemail. Time's up, pretty girl. A male voice, low and menacing. You got cops involved, which means the interest just doubled. Pay up by Friday, or we start with your parents. We know where they live. The timestamp showed it had been received just after her release from police questioning. You see, she whispered. I'm not lying about this. Not anymore. I paced the length of my apartment, possibilities racing through my mind. Even if I drop the charges, it won't solve your problem. They'll just keep coming after you. After all of us. I know, she admitted, defeat evident in every line of her body. But it would buy me time to figure something out. Like what? Another elaborate scam? She flinched. I deserve that. But no. Maybe I could sell Mom and Dad's house, convince them to downsize. Or take out a legitimate loan. You're still thinking about how to avoid consequences, I said, stopping in front of her. That's been your problem all along. Something in my tone made her look up, meeting my eyes for the first time without flinching away. What are you saying? I sat down again, decision crystallizing within me. I'll help you, Arya. But not the way you think. Not by enabling more lies or letting you escape accountability. Ellie. I'll drop the fraud charges, I continued, holding up a hand to silence her protest. But in exchange, you're going to tell Mom and Dad everything. The truth. All of it. Her face paled. They'll never forgive me. Maybe not. But you don't deserve forgiveness until you've been honest about what you've done. She looked away, conflict evident in her expression. And, I continued, we're going to the police together. Not about the fraud, but about these loan sharks. You're going to tell them everything you know. They'll kill me, she repeated, but with less conviction this time. Not if we do this right. I pulled out my phone. I still have Detective Reeves' number. She deals with financial crimes. I'm betting she knows people who handle organized crime too. Arya sat in silence, considering my proposal. Finally, she asked in a small voice, what about the money? That's secondary right now, I said, surprised to realize I meant it. Getting you out of danger is more important. But when this is over, and it will be over, Arya, you're going to pay back every cent. Even if it takes years. She nodded slowly, resignation and something like relief washing over her face. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. All of it. I studied her, searching for signs of deception, finding none. Good. I stood, reaching for my coat. Then let's start with Mom and Dad. Right now. As we walked to my car, Arya trailing like a condemned prisoner on her way to execution, I felt an unexpected lightness. Not happiness, that would take time, if it ever returned, but clarity. Purpose. For the first time in our relationship, I wasn't in my sister's shadow or rushing to her rescue. I was holding her accountable while still offering a hand up from the hole she dug. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. The drive to our parents' house was silent, tension filling the car like a physical presence. Arya stared out the window, her reflected face pale and drawn in the darkened glass. I kept my eyes on the road, hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly. They're going to hate me, she finally whispered as we turned onto our parents' street. They're going to be hurt and angry, I corrected. But they won't hate you. They've never been capable of that, especially when it comes to you. She shot me a quick glance. What's that supposed to mean? I sighed, too exhausted for pretense. You've always been their favorite, Arya. The golden child who could do no wrong. Even when you got caught shoplifting in high school, even when you crashed Dad's car, even when you dropped out of college, they always forgave you. Always made excuses. That's not fair, she protested weakly. It's not about fair. It's about truth. And tonight, finally, they're going to hear the whole truth. I pulled into the driveway, cutting the engine. Light spilled from the windows, illuminating the familiar front porch where we'd played as children. It seemed impossible that in a few minutes, I would shatter my parents' world. Arya made no move to get out of the car. I can't do this, she whispered, panic edging her voice. I looked at her, really looked at her. Behind the fear and manipulation, I caught a glimpse of the little sister I'd protected from schoolyard bullies, the one who'd crawled into my bed during thunderstorms. Despite everything, some part of me still loved her. You can, I said firmly. And you will. Because the alternative is worse. How could anything be worse than this? Spending your life running. Living with this lie between you and everyone who loves you. Never being truly known or accepted for who you are. She met my gaze, something shifting in her expression. When did you get so wise, Ellie? Around the time my sister fake died of cancer to steal my life savings. The joke, if you could call it that, surprised us both. A fragile, broken laugh escaped her, and for a moment, I glimpsed the sister I remembered. Come on, I said, reaching for my door handle. It's time. Inside, we found our parents in the living room, Mom reading a novel, Dad working on his crossword puzzle. The picture of comfortable domesticity about to be shattered. Girls. Mom's face lit up, then quickly shifted to confusion. Arya, I thought you were resting upstairs. How did you? She stopped, noticing our expressions. Dad set aside his newspaper, tension creeping into his posture. What's going on? He asked. Arya looked to me, naked fear in her eyes. I nodded encouragingly, taking a seat in the armchair across from our parents. After a moment's hesitation, Arya perched on the edge of the sofa, as far from them as possible. Mom, Dad, she began, her voice trembling. I have something to tell you. Something terrible. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Is it the cancer? Has it spread? Aria's eyes filled with tears. That's the thing. There is no cancer. Silence. Absolute and deafening. What? Dad finally managed. I lied. The words seemed to physically pain her. About everything. The diagnosis, the treatments, Dr. Harlow, all of it. Mom's face drained of color. But the medical records. The hospital visits. Forged. All of it. Dad stood abruptly. What the hell is going on here? Is this some kind of sick joke? It's not a joke, I said quietly. Aria has been lying to all of us. She never had cancer. She used the money I gave her to buy a car, not for medical treatments. I don't understand, Mom whispered, looking between us. Why would you do something like this? And so, haltingly at first, then with increasing fluency, Aria told them everything. The failed investments. The loans from dangerous people. The elaborate deception she'd constructed to get out of trouble. The way she'd manipulated all of us, especially me, to clean up her mess. By the time she finished, Mom was sobbing quietly into her hands. Dad stood by the fireplace, his back to us, shoulders rigid with shock and anger. I know I can never make this right, Aria concluded, her voice hoarse from emotion. But I'm going to try. Starting with telling the truth. Dad turned finally, his face a mask of controlled fury and grief. Do you have any idea what you've done? The pain you've caused? Your mother has barely slept in weeks, worrying about losing you. I know, Aria whispered. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't begin to cover it, he snapped. You lied about having cancer. Cancer, Aria. Do you know how many families would give anything for their loved one's diagnoses to be a lie? She flinched as though he'd struck her. And Eleanor, he continued, turning to me with anguish in his eyes. We treated her like she was the one in the wrong. Accused her of betraying you when she was the only one seeing clearly. I didn't see clearly enough, I admitted. Not at first. Mom looked up, her face ravaged by tears. What happens now? I explained the rest of our plan, going to the police about the loan sharks, finding a legitimate way for Aria to pay her debts, including the money she owed me. It's going to be a long road, I concluded. And it has to begin with Aria taking responsibility for her actions. Dad sank heavily onto the couch, looking suddenly older than his years. I keep asking myself where we went wrong. How we raised a daughter who could do something so monstrous. Aria sobbed, her body folding in on itself like a collapsing star. I never meant to hurt anyone, she managed between ragged breaths. I just got so deep, and then one lie led to another, and suddenly I was trapped in this terrible story I'd created. Mom reached for Dad's hand, their fingers intertwining in that unconscious way of couples who've weathered decades together. We bear some responsibility here too, she said quietly, her gaze shifting between Aria and me. We've always made excuses for you, Aria. Always protected you from consequences. And we've often overlooked Eleanor's needs in the process, Dad added, his eyes meeting mine with a new recognition that made my throat tighten. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 11, its sonorous tones marking more than just the hour. It seemed to announce the end of one chapter and the beginning of another for our family. Tomorrow morning, I said, standing and smoothing my skirt, we meet with Detective Reeves. Together. As a family. Mom nodded, determination replacing shock on her tear-stained face. These loan sharks, they won't get away with threatening our daughters. The fierce protectiveness in her voice, directed at both of us equally, sent an unexpected wave of emotion through me. Dad turned to Arya, his expression stern but no longer unyielding. This is your one chance to make things right. You understand that, don't you? She nodded, wiping tears with the back of her hand. I know. And I will. I promise. Promises from Arya had lost their weight, but something in her demeanor suggested that perhaps, finally, this one might be different. As we prepared to leave, Mom pulled me into a tight embrace, whispering against my hair, "I'm so sorry we didn't believe you." "It's okay," I replied, though we both knew it wasn't, not yet. But perhaps someday it could be. In the car, Arya turned to me, her face pale in the dashboard light. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For not letting me run away again." I nodded, starting the engine. Sometimes the people who truly love you are the ones brave enough to hold you accountable. As we drove into the uncertain night, I realized that while my $30,000 might be gone, something infinitely more valuable had taken its place, the truth, painful as it was, finally illuminating the path forward.